Hey everybody, welcome back to Marriage Moment. This is take 17. We just sat and filmed a really good marriage moment. Total silence, no microphone, kind of like the YouTube service on Sunday, I guess. Everybody has struggles. Anyway, technology aside, we're glad you've joined us for a marriage moment. We were gone last week in Albuquerque visiting our grandkids, which is always fun. And while we were there, our favorite daughter-in-law, Chasey, said, what if you did a video for Marriage Moment on guardrails? And I thought that's a really good idea. If you're unfamiliar with guardrails, let me, before we get there, just talk about how important it is to protect your marriage. At last night's gathering of America's elite ruling class, where they award each other gifts and pat each other on the back, there was a great thing that happened. Maybe you don't think it's great. A lot of people don't. But Will Smith was there with his wife, and whoever was the MC made fun of his wife, and he wasn't having it. And he walked up on that stage and smacked the guy in the mouth and then told him twice, don't say my wife's name. Don't you dare say my wife's name. Now, however you feel about that, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I hope you would do that for me.
Yeah. It's kind of an old school thing to do to protect the honor of your wife, but that's what that man was doing. He felt like the honor of his wife was being wounded, and he wasn't going to have it. It was important to him to protect his wife. And that's what we're talking about today, this idea of protecting your marriage. Why is it important to protect your marriage?
Well, we've talked before about having the mindset of our marriage being our most valuable possession. And if we enter our marriage with that concept, then we go to great extremes sometimes to protect that.
Yeah.
And that's what this is.
Yep. And so one of the ways we do that is something we've just called guardrails. And a guardrail, you obviously have seen one. If you've ever driven from here anywhere in the mountains, you've seen a guardrail. A guardrail is a big metal barrier that keeps you from driving off the road into some danger. And the interesting thing about guardrails is that you don't put a guardrail in an area that's dangerous. You put a guardrail before the danger zone. You put a guardrail in the safe zone. You actually squeeze into the safe zone, make the safe zone a little bit more uncomfortable so that you don't drift off and fall into a cliff. That's what a guardrail is, and that's what a guardrail does. It protects you from danger. Mm-hmm. And so there are some guardrails that you can put in your own life, and specifically for this talk, guardrails that you can put around your marriage to protect it. I think, just out of years of doing this, that Satan loves to attack Christian marriages. Mm-hmm. He loves to tear them apart. And it is a huge mistake for you as a married person to think, well, my marriage could never end in divorce, or my marriage won't suffer an affair, or my marriage is too good or too strong to fail. Those are nice thoughts. However, those are arrogant thoughts. Mm-hmm. And arrogant thoughts like that lead to your destruction. So it's important that you analyze your marriage and you set up guardrails, and they're going to be different for everybody because everybody has different weaknesses and different vulnerabilities. So it's important that you identify them and then place guardrails there to keep your marriage from drifting and falling off a cliff. Yes. So you've got some examples, some that we have done through the years. Mm-hmm. Not an exhaustive list, a partial list. What do you got?
Yeah, so the first one is probably one of the biggest ones and most important, I think. That we would never allow ourselves to be in a position where we're alone with the person of the opposite sex. And I even have an example when I was in a different position with school. Sometimes there are trips and events and things, and we even have school vehicles that you can ride in and take, so you're not taking your own vehicle. And I had to make a decision. I was given the choice of you can ride in the school vehicle. It would be with a principal, a male principal, and just me, or in the bus with the group of kids that was going on the event. And so because we already had that guardrail set up, that was a no-brainer for me. And it did seem a little bit extreme, maybe to other people looking in, like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And of course, there would have probably not been anything that would have happened, and it wasn't a big deal that I would ride in that school vehicle. But because I treasure and cherish our marriage, I wasn't even going to put myself in that position. So I rode the bus.
Great example. And in one of the other takes that we did on this, you made a really good point that nobody intentionally, very seldom do people intentionally drive their car off a cliff. It's an accident.
Right.
You're not paying attention. You lose focus for just a second. You do something different for just a second. And all of a sudden you've drifted out of the safe zone and now you're in the danger zone. And that's why that guardrail is there. And the same thing happens in marriage all the time. Nobody intentionally drives their marriage off a cliff. Nobody intentionally tries to damage their marriage, but you lose focus for a second. You stop paying attention for just a minute, and all of a sudden you're drifting into a danger zone. And that's exactly what this does, is when we have made the statement, we're not going to be alone with other people of the opposite sex. It might seem extreme. It might seem stupid. It might seem like y'all are paranoid. Yeah, maybe.
It's
worked.
My marriage is worth it.
Yeah, it's worked. And honestly, other people's opinions are not going to affect how we protect our marriage. We just analyze, and there's an opportunity over time. If you're alone with people of the opposite sex, you could drift into a danger zone. So it's a great example. And that offends people in my position quite often because I don't counsel women alone, and a lot of people get hurt by that. And I just tell them, that's just something I do to protect my marriage. I'm not saying anything about you. It's all about me. We're not alone with people of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
For any reason.
That's a big one. And sometimes, in work or just in different situations, you may find that it's really hard to have this guardrail in place.
Or inconvenient.
Very inconvenient. But your marriage is worth it.
Yeah.
So, another one, we were laughing about this because when we got married almost 32 years ago, this wasn't even an issue.
Nope, it wasn't an issue because we are older than iPhones. We are older than Facebook. We are older than the internet.
Yeah. So we decided when we found this concept of guardrails and wanted to put this in place for our marriage, we shared our social media together. In fact, you even put our accounts online as Jason Renee as one name and then Craft. And we have each other's passwords, and we share all of that. And there's nothing in that that's a secret.
Right. And that, again, it probably to somebody watching just sounds crazy or sounds so stupid, or why in the world would you do that? But the reason we did that one is because within the span of about a year, I was involved with 3 different couples who, over that time period, one of each of those couples had discovered an old flame or reconnected with an old high school sweetheart, and it about killed their marriages. And they did that through social media, and the other spouse didn't know. So for me, it was a giant red flag. Here's an area of vulnerability that I want to protect my marriage from. So the way we're going to do that is install a guardrail. And the guardrail is we're going to share passwords, we're going to share accounts, so that there's nothing secret going on the big bad internet.
Yeah, and that one brings up something that I didn't really think about till now. There may be things in the next several years that are going to present an issue for a marriage that you're going to have to be wise, just ask God to give you wisdom, that you would see, ooh, I need a guardrail on that for our marriage, or that could be an enemy for us.
It takes humility to do that, because 30 years ago we would have never dreamed.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to be careful of Facebook because it wasn't a thing. And so you have to humbly approach your marriage and say, if there's a threat out there, I'm going to do anything I can to protect my marriage from it.
Yeah.
It might be something you are totally unaware of coming up.
Right.
So be aware and just be looking for those vulnerabilities. Last one?
So the last one we have, and we do this all the time. This may not be something that you can do with your different schedules or just different things that are happening in life, or maybe even the way you are a morning person and a night owl. Usually we're opposites, so you kind of have to make some adjustments to be able to do this one, but I think it's really important, and that's that you go to bed at the same time when it's possible, as often as possible. It could be that one spouse has had an addiction to porn in the past, and at night is when that temptation comes up, that you need to have some accountability. And it could just be, this is a great time to spend together. If you've got young children, And when you're finally able to go to bed together. It's a little bit of time to talk and spend some time together, so you get that added bonus. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it. Well, if you don't have guardrails, I hate to tell you, you are susceptible to driving your marriage off a cliff, not even knowing. Just have an accident and all of a sudden things are bad. But if you have a guardrail placed in the safe zone, you'll bump up against it. It won't feel right, and you'll back off. It's a great way to protect your marriage. We'd love to hear yours if you've got some. Please comment below and let us know what your guardrails are. What are the things you do to protect your marriage? We would love to hear those and maybe share those. Also, if you have something you would like for us to discuss or cover, we'll do our best. We're not marriage counselors. We're not marriage experts. We just love marriage. We love our marriage. We love God's plan for marriage, and we love your marriage, and we want it to be good. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. Put up some guardrails if you don't have any. Also, it'd really help us if you would like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps us with analytics, and it just gives us some good feedback, so we appreciate it. That's it for now. Bye.
Bye.